Good afternoon and welcome to this live session to all prospective students of the Mastery Science program and all students coming to study in Maastricht. We're here at the Mastery Science program in the courtyard. I'm joined by Julie, a fellow student, and we're just having this live stream to introduce students to life in Maastricht and all the practicalities involved in finding accommodation, getting to know other students, things like that. So we'll have some questions, obviously. If you have any questions, you can ask them at any time during the live stream, and we'll answer them at the end of each guest speaker or at the end of the actual session itself. Right now, I'm joined here with Maurice Evers, who is the head of department at Maastricht Housing, and he'll just explain to us a little bit about what Maastricht Housing does and how students can find accommodation through it.
Okay.
Hello, Maurice. Welcome.
Thank you, Max.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
So, can you explain a little bit more to us, or the students, what
Yes, of course I
Maastricht Housing
can.
is about?
The main responsibility of finding a house in Maastricht, if you're going to study and live here, lies with the student itself. We are not a housing corporation as a university, of course, but we supply some different kinds of aid to students. One of the best things that we supply, I think, is the Maastricht Housing website. It's a website where almost all landlords and landladies in the city put on their offers. Students can create their own search profile, add in everything that they want from the room, including the price that they maximum want to pay for the room. And from that they will get offers from Maastricht Housing, and then they can contact either the housing corporations. They supply about 30% of the whole market, but also the contact details from the private landlords, which is about 60% of all housing in Maastricht. Besides this platform, maastrichthousing.com, we also supply short stay housing, mainly for exchange students. But 2 years ago, we decided also to put up some offers, which are all-inclusive offers for international bachelor and master students. That was about 250 rooms. This year, we got some complaints from students last year that they had difficulty in finding appropriate housing. And that's why the executive board decided to put in some additional housing by the university, which will be about 329 additional rooms, which will be offered at the most popular location of the guest house, which is the Annadal campus. And we hope to put them all in before the start of the new academic year. It looks good, so we think we will be able to supply these rooms.
Sounds good. Are there any other places or ways that students can find housing besides Maastricht Housing?
Of course, yeah. Most of them use Maastricht Housing.
Okay.
So if you turn over to other agencies, which is a good idea as well, but most of them also supply the housing through Maastricht Housing. What new in the city is the student hotel, which has opened a fabulous location, very close to the river. It's quite expensive, but it's a very unique location with a unique experience for students. Another bigger supplier of housing is Jules, which is also very known in Maastricht. They also supply about 1,000 rooms, I guess, from different landlords and landladies. These are the two bigger parties. There's one other one. Unfortunately, they don't have a name in English. It's called Huizenbeheer Maastricht. They are the largest supplier of housing in Maastricht, and they also do a very good job. So we have very good experience in working together with these agencies. Practicalities, also about finding a house, all kinds of tips that you might need. You can also find them on the website of mymaastricht.nl. It's about housing, it's about getting a visa, how to get insurance, if you want to work in the Netherlands. All this information is also on this website, but it will be focused on in this podcast later on as well. Sure. Of course, Facebook is also a very important way to find housing, and the most known one is Rooms, Timmer, Kamers, where you can find a lot of good information. Students offer their own houses. Sometimes over there you can get visitations at these houses to see if you fit into this house with the other students. But you can also find good tips, and you can even find information about possible scams. Maastricht is not very known for scams. We don't have them a lot, but every year there are 1 or 2 scams that pop up. And to avoid running into scams is really difficult sometimes, but what you always can do is look up the housing on Google Maps, just to see if it actually exists. Sometimes houses are rented out on business locations where actually there is no housing, only factories, and If you don't look into it, you think that you have a trustworthy landlord, and then it turns out not to be in existence, the place. And you want to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah, I can also definitely confirm that as an international student, it can be sometimes a bit difficult to get housing because if you want to visit the room, of course, you can't do this if you're living in a foreign country. So what I would suggest, try to get a room as soon as possible, especially now. People are moving out right now. So go to that Facebook group, join that Facebook group, go to Maastricht Housing, register there. I think you have to pay a fee of 30 euros.
35 euros. It's a one-time fee for the whole duration of your studies. So you can, if you're moving to other places, you will also need this registration. So it's really advisable to do it.
Exactly. And I think the sooner you sign up for Maastricht Housing, the better, because you get priority the longer you've been part of this group. And as an international student, I would just suggest, like I said, get housing as soon as possible. There's also the possibility of, let's say, sub-renting a room for half a year, and then you just come to Maastricht, you live here for half a year, and during this half a year, you can find new housing. Just because it can be difficult due to the fact that there's so many students coming in at once to get a room. So just basically try to get one as soon as possible. That would be my advice.
It's the best advice that you can give. Get up and get on it. Don't wait. Start right away.
Yes.
The better your chances are of finding a nice place that you really want to live in.
We have a question. Sorry. It says, it's from Kabir. Am I allowed to view or visit my booked house through Maastricht Housing if I am visiting Maastricht in a couple of weeks? Should we hand over to Maurice?
Yeah, you can visit the housing before you sign a contract, but to do this you have to be in contact with the landlord, who is the owner or at least renting out the rooms or the apartments. Maastricht Housing offers all the contact information that you will need for that. You just get in contact with the landlord and you make an appointment with him, and then he will ask you to come by and visit the room. But be aware, you will probably not be the only one who's going to visit this housing. Probably more students will show up. So it's advisable to, if you're coming to Maastricht, to make sure that you can visit a couple of rooms
definitely.
Straight away. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the thing. Don't just look at one singular room. Make sure you have a lot of possibilities, because these rooms go away really, really quickly and there are a lot of people interested. Like, you'll be fine. Just make sure you get on it pretty quickly.
And we have another question from Amar. The question is, I have booked a room, but I expect to arrive at Maastricht after the first day of the contract. Can I do that and sign the contract after the start of the rent period?
That's possible, but it's not recommendable, because if you have a good contact with the landlord and you're in good contact with him and he says it's no problem if you come later, then you can trust him that this is okay. But if you have to come over and you don't have that good contact, you never know what the landlord might do. It's not that Maastricht Housing divides the housing, it's the landlords themselves who pick out the students who they want to live in there. So it's difficult. I wouldn't do that. I would try to sign the contract before coming to Maastricht, just to be sure that you're the only one who is interested and allowed for this housing.
One question, another one. What are the best suburbs to look at when looking for housing? Oh, that's an interesting and a good question.
Personally, I can say that I live in the city center, and also it's maybe important to say that the faculty of MSP is also in the city center, and that I personally really, really like. It's really good because you're very, very well connected, not only to like supermarkets, but also places to go out, bars and clubs. But on the other hand, you also have to consider Maastricht is pretty small. So even if you live, let's say, on the other side of the river, close by the train station, you're only 15 minutes walking or by bike from the city center. So really, no matter where you go, you will be very close.
So I would say the most popular suburbs, because you were asking for specific suburbs, there's on this side, obviously, the city center, and then on the other side, it's called Wijk, right? Wijk, if I'm not mistaken. Wijk. So that's where also a lot of students live, or close to another train station called Randwijk, which is just on the edge of Wijk. But also a number of students live in Belgium, which is also cheaper than living in Maastricht. is not too far away. Maastricht is very close to the Belgian border. So that's also another option. If you can't find housing within Maastricht, you can maybe find something that's on the border in Belgium.
Yeah.
And don't forget, a lot of students move around a lot.
That's
so
true, exactly.
New places come available throughout the year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly as Julia pointed out, it's really difficult if you wait too long. By the end of August, not many offers will be available. They will be more expensive, so start your search in time.
That's true. I mean, yeah, from personal experience, I have some friends who've been here for a year and a half, who've moved around 4 times. So even when you're here, you can still find accommodation constantly. It's a constant cycle, I guess.
It is. Yeah.
Just to wrap up shortly, is there any way people can get in touch with Maastricht Housing? Is there something?
Yeah, they can always get in contact through our website, maastrichthousing.com, or info@maastrichthousing.com. They can contact us if they have any questions. We have frequently asked questions, of course, on our website, but we also have personal assistants from our help desk where students work and who can tell the prospective students exactly what is needed to find a good accommodation in Maastricht. So that's where they can contact us.
Well, thank you very much, Maurice. We'll now show you a short video of Maastricht Housing. And we hope that covered your questions about housing. Thank you.
Welcome to Maastricht Housing, the largest mediator for student and staff housing in Maastricht and surroundings. We are the official housing mediator for Maastricht University, Zuidhogeschool and Jan van Eyck Academy. Thanks to our partnership with the 3 official housing corporations and many private letters, we are able to offer good quality housing at affordable prices and no mediation costs. Maastricht is a lovely historical town. It has got many lovely places to go to. It has a vibrant nightlife and rich traditions, like the street carnival in February. If you're an international exchange, bachelor or master student, or a staff member who will only be staying in Maastricht temporarily, and you prefer a fully furnished room, you can book one directly at our guest house. We offer housing in both the countryside and the historical city centre, and in the friendly suburbs of the town. We offer a diverse range of housing possibilities which is suitable for both students as well as employees. Subscription to our website is easy and cheap, and there are no long waiting lists. Log in to My Housing, our member area, to customize your search profile to fit your needs. Want to know a bit more? You can find a detailed description on our website. So if you're looking for a nice place to stay, join Maastricht Housing by registering today.
Welcome back to the live stream. I'm joined by 2 new guests here. Well, we're joined by 2 new guests. We have Max Kuckels from the International Student Ambassador Program and Oscar Franken from the International Student Desk. And these 2 will talk about how these programs or the Student Desk can help students join Maastricht, I guess, and how it will help their student life. So we'll start with Oscar, who's from the International Student Desk. What is the International Student Desk and how can it help students before they apply or before they arrive here?
Thank you for the question. The International Student Desk is a very, we have a very broad range of things that we discuss with students. Basically, any problem during your study that might arise, you can come to the International Student Desk. If you, for instance, let's first start with the beginning. You want to come to Maastricht and you don't know exactly how to get there. The International Student Desk and the back office of the International Student Desk, they provide a service. It's called the pickup service. And what that is if you want to come to Maastricht around August and you're not sure exactly how to navigate through Maastricht, let's say you arrive at Schiphol or another airport in the neighborhood, then you can actually contact International Student Desk via the website, and we can help you. If you come from Schiphol, we have a service that I think between the 20th and the 29th of August, you can actually get picked up physically from the airport of Schiphol. And we will personally help you to get by train to Maastricht and drop you off at the station. On the other hand, if you come from other airports surrounding Maastricht, for instance, you come from German airports, then we can also provide you with a general outline of how to navigate to Maastricht via public transport. You can also do this via Google Maps, of course, but we offer a more personalized version of that, just to get you where you need to be. And then once you're actually in Maastricht and you're settled here, around the 26th of August, I believe, we have an International Welcome Day. Students can sign up for that. I think there's a small cost associated with it. I believe something around €5. Correct me if I'm wrong. And during this day, you basically meet a lot of international students. You get to know these students better. You get to know the people from Maastricht better. You get a tour around the city to see all the main points of interest. And yeah, you get to know Maastricht a bit better and maybe already meet some new friends. Afterwards, it takes an entire day. Afterwards, we also go for drinks and for dinner. So it's just a nice welcome day for students. And then afterwards, once you are actually settled in Maastricht, you find out that, for instance, you have to pay taxes because the municipality is going to tax you. Or you get strange letters from the government that say that you have to be insured. Well, maybe that is not true. And that is especially also a point to actually come to the International Service Desk, the International Student Desk. We are located at the service center in Maastricht, in the center. And if you come to us with any of these letters, we help you to solve it. Because very often, students, for instance, don't need to pay taxes necessarily because they don't have enough income to pay taxes, and they can apply for an exemption. Or if they get a letter that says that they need to be insured, that is not necessarily true either, because that is only true if they actually work in the Netherlands. So for all these kind of questions, they come to us.
Can you tell us a little bit about international students if they want to get money back for housing, for example, or for their insurance? I know that some students, obviously, you're paying a high fee to live here, but maybe you necessarily can't afford that too much. Is there a way to get money back from the government?
Yeah, there is definitely a way to get money back in the right circumstances. For instance, if you start working in the Netherlands, at that point you do need a Dutch health insurance. So I also would recommend to come to us and we help you to get actually an insurance. We help you to set an insurance up. And once that is the case, you can also always apply for subsidy because the government obliges you to have Dutch health insurance, but then they also say, okay, we give you subsidy to actually pay for it. So what you often see is that students take a rather cheap or rather basic health insurance, and then the subsidy from the government is actually enough to cover the entire cost of the health insurance. So in the end, you don't have to pay that much. And the same goes for for rent insurance, rent subsidy. If you are renting a place and it is within a specific income bracket, then you are also eligible for subsidy. And that subsidy can, depending on your age, depending on whether you're below or above 23, that can be more or less, and can cover parts, sometimes big parts of your rent.
But I do know that in order to get this housing subsidy, you need to, you can't just have a room within Maastricht. You have to have something called a studio or an apartment where you have your own doorbell, your own bathroom, and your own kitchen, if I'm not mistaken.
There are certain requirements to the room, that is true. And also the cost. The cost of the room cannot be more, if you're under 23, I think it cannot be more than around 350. And if you are above 23, it can be a bit more expensive. It can be up to, I think, €710. And then at that point, you are eligible still for the subsidy. And then also, indeed, it needs to have its own postal code. So indeed, what you say, your own doorbell or your own post address. And then also it needs to have its own bathroom, kitchen, and toilet. If that is the case, then we call it a self-sufficient living residence, something around that lines. And for tax purposes, that is important. And also for getting the subsidy, that is important.
All right.
Maybe one question which people are asking themselves. So you were talking about this welcome package that you pick people up, but also that you help them with different letters that they will possibly get from the municipality. Is this all for free, or do you have to pay something?
No, this is all for free. Indeed, the students can come to the SSC. They sometimes have to wait for 15 minutes, and that's the only penalty that you're going to pay.
So you don't even have to make an appointment? You can just go there?
Yeah, we don't do appointments at all. We have our office there. You come to us, see us, and give us all your Dutch letters that you don't understand. Or yeah, we see a vast range of problems. Sometimes we have students that were not insured and were accidentally hit by a car, and something needs to happen then. And if they're not insured, then we need to find ideally the person who did it and see if we can arrange something from their insurance. Or we have students that also have trouble finding a doctor, and they want to know how to get a doctor, and we can also help them with that. All sorts of practical matters.
Nice.
I have a question here from Kabir asking, is it better to take health insurance from our own country or from the Netherlands? This is in regards to a non-EU citizen. Can you...
That's an interesting question, yeah. It depends a bit what your international, if you have a foreign insurance, it depends a bit on
what
whether...
they cover, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If your international, or if your foreign insurance covers you in the Netherlands, then that's fine. Then you can rely on this insurance.
Yeah.
But you have to check that with your own health insurer. This differs per company. And sometimes what you see is that in some countries there's private insurance, and in some countries there's public insurance. If you have public insurance, I think Italy has this, for instance. I think in Germany they have also they have a double system, I think, where they have both a public version and a private version. And it all depends a bit then. And you have to see actually with your insurance company or with the government if they cover you in the Netherlands. If they don't, then what I recommend is that you take out what we call an international student insurance. Yeah. And that can actually, you can then choose where it covers you, and then of course you can pick, you can choose to let it cover you in the Netherlands.
What's important to mention is, as I think you already said before, if you want to work in the Netherlands, you have to have Dutch health insurance, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're planning on getting a job here, then definitely think about it. Yeah. You have to get Dutch health insurance.
And what happens sometimes is that in September a student comes to us and they say, well, I'm not well insured, can you get me an insurance? And if the student at that point is not well insured and they are not working yet, then we give them an international student insurance.
Yes.
If after a few months they come back to me and they say, hey, I got a job, well, then we need to change that. Mm-hmm. Then we need to unsubscribe to the international student insurance and get the person a Dutch health insurance. And we can all help to arrange this.
Nice.
Kabir also asked, is there anything other than the price you should look out for when applying for an insurance?
Well, the insurance companies, especially the Dutch ones, they're all obliged by law to have about the same prices. And that differs. They can be, the minimum I think now is around 78 euros, and the maximum can go up to 200, I believe. Don't get that, just get like something in between. But the thing is that the government actually subsidizes it for I think 94 or 96 euros.
That's true.
So in the end, if you have an insurance that costs around 96 euros, then you're not going to pay anything. And then for the international student insurance, so not the Dutch one, but the international one, these are rather cheap.
15 euros, I think.
No, I think the company that we usually work with, it costs €1.31 a day.
What?
So that's around.
Oh, okay.
It's around 40 euros per month.
Okay. Still doing.
That's still good.
There's another question here. The person is arriving before the pickup services that you offer on August 1st. Mm-hmm. Is there any way that UM can help them to arrive from Schiphol, or?
I think at that point, before the 21st, we don't do the physical pickup service. But I think if you send an email to the International Service Desk or to the pickup service, you can find that on the website of Maastricht University. There you can ask for a personalized travel advice, and there we can not physically pick you up, but we can then advise you, give you basically a list of which buses to take, which trains to take in order to get to Maastricht.
It's also a pretty straightforward system coming from the airport down here, I guess.
Yeah, in general, if you come from Schiphol,
yeah.
Because I believe the person is coming from Schiphol, it's rather easy.
Yeah. Hope that answers your question. We have three more questions here. Roy asked, do I have to write a letter to the government to ask for the subsidy, or can they go to the student desk?
You can come to the student desk. It's a bit of an interesting process because in the Netherlands we like to do things, or the government likes to do things digitally.
That's true.
So first thing that what we do with you if you come to the International Service Desk is we make your online account with the government. We call that a DigiID account. And it takes a bit of a time to make that account, but once that is set up, we can just go to the website of the tax office, and they handle the subsidies, and there we can digitally apply for subsidies. So once you actually have that account, we can apply for subsidy in a matter of minutes.
Yes, so everything is done online in a centralized system. Whether you're dealing with insurance or your taxes, etc., it's all in one area.
So you can just come to the service desk, and we take care of it for you. You don't need to send any letters.
Yeah. Are you able to assist with individuals who what? With flight options? Are you able to assist individuals with flight options? For example, giving outline on which flight routes are most appropriate to arrive in the Netherlands?
Ooh, that's a very particular one.
Yeah.
Maybe if you indeed apply for this personalized travel advice, we could help you with that. But in general, I would say that it's also something to figure out yourself, because the travel routes, it depends what you want. You can have a really fast flight with a very fast connection that costs lots of money, or you can have a really cheap flight that's going to take you 24 hours to arrive in Maastricht.
Yeah.
So, or at Schiphol. So it depends a bit.
I mean, maybe the best advice would be like the airports around Maastricht that are the most international, I guess, would be obviously Amsterdam. Schiphol is the biggest. You could fly to Brussels. Cologne doesn't do that much, but it's quite close. Or there's a Maastricht-Aachen airport.
But that one is very small.
Which is a very small airport.
Yep.
But your best bet would probably be to go to Amsterdam, Brussels, or Eindhoven if you're flying from within the EU, I think.
And remember, also the train network in the Netherlands is pretty good.
Yeah.
So if you're coming from Amsterdam, I think you have to stop over once or twice maybe, and then you're here. It takes maybe 3 hours or something like that. So
true. And
it's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Indeed, and you can do that all by 2 trains. So you just sit for 2.5 hours, 3 hours.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's very doable.
One last question by Kevin asks, will you be eligible for housing subsidy if you have booked a room through the UM guest house?
I believe as of now not. No. I'm not sure what's happening to the new rooms that are rumored to be being built right now or being arranged right now. But I think as of now, for the UM guest house, it's currently not an option. I
think, yeah, I mean, we did talk about the requirements that you need in order to have this housing subsidy. And I think at the guest house, you share a room with someone else also. So that would obviously already impede on that, that requirement. So unfortunately not Kevin, but there are other options. So now, thank you very much, Oscar. I think that covers everything about the International Student Desk. But you did talk about this Welcome Day, which is, I think, in collaboration with the International Student Ambassador Program. And Max, can you tell us a little bit more about the ISAP?
Yeah, sure. So hello everyone, thanks for having me. As Oscar already mentioned, ISAP is part of the International Welcome Package at Maastricht University. And what it basically is about, it matches current students at UM with new students new international students that arrive in Maastricht. And basically it's an interfaculty program which helps you with practical issues in Maastricht, such as finding housing, academic issues such as when does my academic calendar come out, when is it published, and also course matters. So we try to match students at a certain faculty, so we don't end up having students and ambassadors matched with newbies that are not at the same faculty. So we try to arrange that. And what ISAP does, that's the abbreviation of International Student Ambassador Program. We organize social events like pub quizzes, international food fest, which is always a great success because it's free food, which every student likes, obviously. And yeah, we organize these social events on a almost weekly basis. And yeah, it's a great initiative, I think, because it's inter-faculty and students usually live in their own faculty bubbles sometimes, so it's good to get out and meet new people, so I can only recommend to apply.
You said you do things on a weekly basis. Is this throughout the whole year, or is it limited to a specific period of time?
So usually we start in September and then it lasts for 4 months. Okay. So it's a 4-month program from September until December. Because we believe in the first months it's more important to have this program, and then afterwards people find their way around Maastricht themselves, have their own circle of friends, and yeah, that's the duration of the program, and it's also for free. And you can just apply via the Maastricht University website. There it says International Student Ambassador Program.
All right. Do you have any other things that the ISAP does?
So our main thing is indeed social events and gatherings. But yeah, also a really good thing about it is that there is a person of contact. The first point of contact is an email that will be sent to you from the ambassador, and there you can already ask questions, and throughout the year there's always a point or a person that you can contact in case you have any questions, doubts about studying here, or you just want to have someone to talk to when you're having a hard time. So
that would be like a buddy.
Exactly, yeah. That's why it's called also a buddy program. Yeah.
And how do people get assigned to the said buddy?
So through the application process we look at the faculty you study in and whether you have a preference for your buddy, either male or female, and then we try to cater to this preference and match students from the same faculty to you, so they can most adequately answer your question.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think this is I participated in the buddy program as like a first year, and I think it's really a great way, as you said, to meet also people who are not necessarily from your faculty, but who are also from different places, because what I noticed with my experience, that once you come to MSP, you're going to have a lot of friends who are also from MSP as you're spending most of your time here, and programs like this give you the opportunity to like reach out to more people who are not just sciencey nerds like we are. And especially also once you start coming to Maastricht, like the first 1 or 2 weeks, you don't know so many people. So even, this is a great way to expand your circle from the first day onwards, basically.
Exactly, and one big thing is our opening ceremony, which will take place in the first week of the academic year. So I encourage you to sign up on the UN website where it says ISAP.
Great, thank you so much. We have one question from Kevin. This is just a general question, I think, for students. He's asking, is it mandatory to have an international driver's license, or I guess international in general, just a driver's license when studying in Maastricht? From personal experience, no, like we said. The city is very small or relatively small. Everything is possible via either the bus service, by foot, or by bike. The only reason you'd really need a driver's license is maybe if you live in Belgium and you feel like, oh, it's a hassle to come down into the city. That could be a good idea to have a driver's license. Obviously, you can have a car. Other than that, I personally wouldn't recommend getting a car, or you don't really need a driver's license. There's parking issues here in the city, so that's another thing.
Also, indeed, if you come from Belgium and you would have to park all the time in the center of Maastricht, it would cost you a lot of money.
Exactly, that's true.
Maybe it depends also a bit. If you come from an EU country, then you don't need to convert your driver's license, I think. I don't think that is necessary. Maybe if you would come from outside of the European Union, but I don't know that exactly. No.
Yeah. Right. Well, thank you very much, Oscar and Max. We're going to show a short video by ISAP now, and we hope that we could answer your questions about how to find friends in Maastricht in the first weeks of your studies.
We belong together.
They appointed my ambassador, which is Kirill, and he helped me a lot.
So I immediately added her on Facebook, and suddenly was like a friend really.
replied me in a minute always, and he was so, I don't know, so nice. Yeah.
They picked me up from the airport when I came, so that was really nice.
What to do the first days, because obviously you arrive here, university hasn't started yet. In things like, where do I go shopping?
I always like ask him stupid question like, where can I buy a second-hand boot?
Asked a lot of small things really, nothing major. It was more like the things that make you feel comfortable in Maastricht.
Also, academic information was really relevant, and I got all those questions beforehand by email to my ambassador, so you sort of feel more like comfortable when you arrive here.
Even when you're still in Russia, you know that in Maastricht you already have a friend.
I met my best friends through the buddy program.
Not only they show you like practical stuff around the city, but also it's very interesting to meet new people from various cultures. Maastricht is an amazing city, a great university, and just a great place to be.
Just apply without any hesitation. Just apply.
I confirm that.
We belong together. We belong together.
Welcome back. We're joined here now by Rachel Schneider from the Student Service Center, who's going to talk to us a little bit more about administrative things such as enrolling in the university, bringing a certificate of diploma, or opening a bank account and registering with the City Hall in Maastricht. So it's just some admin that we're going to go through. Thank you for coming, Rachel.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about how this thing works?
Well, generally, I think it's very important to first understand what the Student Services Center is, which is like where I work and where a lot of this stuff happens. Basically, it is this big building. You can find all sorts of offices there. Your direct contact person, if you would go there, would be the front desk first, or if you call, it would be the call center, which is where me and my colleagues work. So, you know, we would be the first contact person. By no means are we like the experts in every field, but we generally know all the offices that are relevant for the application or for, you know, any sort of life issues, such as what my colleague talked about earlier with the International Service Desk. You know, we would know where to refer students to and where they could solve their issue. So one of the first things would be the administration stuff. So if you go to our front desk in the building, you see us at the front desk. You also have an admission desk, but there is something called a proof of enrollment. And even though students might not know yet what it means, a lot of them will probably request it over time. It is basically this paper document stating that a student is enrolled, you know, formally approved, what academic year it is, their name. So a lot of times these documents are used for, you know, like financial purposes. If they have, for example, child support in a different country, get money from the government in different countries, also the Netherlands, for example, then they could, you know, get that form from us, have it printed, and then scan it themselves and use it for that purpose. However, we also actually print those documents ourselves, and we can send them via post. We don't do that via email though. So if a student ever, you know, wants to have that document, he can come to the front desk, or she, with the student ID card, and then basically request it. We can print it right away. It's free, like that's it. Otherwise, the student can email us from their student email account, very important, because then we can verify the student's identity. And then we can send it via post. So also if, you know, you would be the student doing it, include your post address, because then we can send it right away, get to it in the same day. Also proof of enrollment. A lot of, for example, German students or other nationalities, they have specific forms, like, for example, BAföG. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. If you're formally approved, we can also always have a look at it and see whether we can fill that out. In many cases, we can. So in that case, you have to be formally approved to get those documents, very important. If you are conditionally approved, that is not the case. Conditionally approved, you know, usually means that you are accepted to the program, but only like a few things are missing. For example, your payment details or your diploma. Because the deadline for payment details, I'll get to that later about like how everything works, is mid-August, whereas the deadline for diplomas is September 1st. So, you know, because of that, that deadline is so delayed, a lot of students, you know, are not formally approved till September 1st or a little after that when they process the diplomas. So before that, they're conditionally approved. But basically, that's kind of the idea behind it, and they can send us the diplomas either via post, or they can come to us. Well, it has to be the certified hard copy, not the original one, by the way. Or they can come to the Student Services Center with their original one, and then we can take a scan of it and actually, approve of it, or process it either way. Furthermore, because I mentioned all of this, like with the documents you could receive at the Student Services Center, literally ranging from proof of enrollments to other financial forms, always make sure to bring your student ID card. Once you have that, you would receive it in the first week that you're probably here, because it is the way that you identify yourself at the university. It's like basically a proof of who you are with a picture on it, so we know, that you are actually a student here. We have your ID number on it. This also is a very useful item, for example, for exams. Usually you cannot take your exams without a card. It's very important, so don't lose it. Yeah. So that's kind of the general stuff about admission, but yeah.
Maybe one thing to say, your M card, which you'll probably get in your first week, you can also pick up at the Student Services Center. Yeah. So you basically just go in, you ask, hi, where do I pick up my card? And then they'll tell you, go down this hall. And then, I don't know even if you have to fill out forms, but it's basically right there.
Usually you don't. You need to bring a legal identification. Okay. So passport, ID card, whatsoever. We usually, during the main season, we have a separate hallway where we do it. Yeah. Otherwise, throughout the year, you can do it at the admission desk. Or we also have a session for the at the Randweg location. So at UM Sports, we usually do it. The exact dates are not clear, I believe, but if students, for example, live closer to that area, they could also pick it up there.
You were talking about some deadlines for September, August, but our study program, I think, as you know, also has an intake in February. Do you know specifics for people who want to start in February?
The deadline would basically be shifted to then. I'm not sure about the exact day, but it's basically a few days before the program officially starts, where the deadline of the diploma is. And even if students would not be able to get the diploma on time, they can always fill in a diploma statement, which basically means they will not obtain their certified hard copy on time, and can then get that extended deadline for it.
Yeah. Is it possible to start studying, obviously if you don't have your diploma, like we were saying, hypothetically, can you still come here and say, fill out a form, or tell the admissions office, the diploma will be coming in the coming weeks or so. Can I still start my studies?
Yeah, you can indeed. I mean, you are supposed to graduate already, but that's what that diploma statement is for. So you would go to your institution, like your secondary education or wherever you went before that, and it's basically a form that states that you will that you graduated, you obtained all the grades to graduate. Just the finishing up of the diploma is not ready yet. So they can put in a signature and a stamp on it, and that can be sent to the university, also via post. And then, we could use that as a temporary diploma, basically. And once the student has obtained the official one, we can replace it with that. Right. That's fine.
We have a question here from Ava, who's asking, do we have to translate our diploma to English?
In some cases, yes. So if it would need a translation, it has to be a certified translation, first of all. But we generally accept, German diplomas, French diplomas, English, Dutch, the most common ones.
In their original
language. In their original language. So those do not have to be translated. However, if you have, for example, I don't know, a Portuguese diploma or a Chinese diploma, then it needs a certified translation.
But that's somewhere online where it says which diplomas you need to get translated and which ones not?
Generally the ones I listed, yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, and otherwise the admissions office would always contact them, or it sends out regular reminders that says, your diploma wasn't approved, and then because of the language.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. I hope that answers some admin questions about admissions and things like that. Now we're going to move on to opening a bank account, which is an important factor, obviously, when living in the Netherlands here. Can you tell us a little bit about opening that bank account?
Yeah. So a lot of our, especially the MSP students, are going to be international. So, they might not have a bank account that originated or is basically based in a European country, which could create, a lot of issues with payments, or cards could be declined, or it just makes it super hard to do transfers. So what we have is for, non-SEPA countries, which basically means, not the ones located in Europe or that work with the euro. We have a contract with ING, the bank. That contract is still open to change, but most likely not, which means that you could come as a student to the Student Services Center, once again the front desk, and then we could fill in a form for you with which you can open a bank account. Important what you also need for it would be, you know, your ID, legal verification. You would need a residence address, so, you know, have a location in Maastricht where you already live, which also means you would have to register with the municipality, which I'll get later. You know, it kind of has those things. Also important is a phone number. I know a lot of like new students that are not European, they have a phone number that doesn't work here. So in that case, those students can come to the Student Services Center as well, and we can give them a temporary one, you know, just one of those prepaid chips, and they can use that to basically make that registration at the bank.
Maybe to add on to that, if you do have a student account at the ING bank, the student account is free, so you don't need to pay anything to have an account there. Also, what's good to mention is, of course, you can do it through the SSC, which is probably easier, but if you want to, you can also do it on your own. You can just go to the ING bank and say, hey, I'm a student.
Unfortunately, not in most cases.
Oh, not anymore, okay.
Well, in theory you can, but for a lot of students, especially the ones that are not formally approved, but conditionally approved instead, we need to fill out a form for them. So at the, you know, in most cases you can do it yourself, that is correct, but at the front desk we have a form that's basically a proof of registration for the ING specifically that they made with a contract that we have with them. And so we can put a stamp on that form and a signature, basically say that they're going to be enrolled in the next academic year, so that the bank has the safety, you know, that they know that the students will be there next year.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, obviously there are other bank accounts, not like you're limited to go to ING, but for international students, I think ING is the most simplified or the
suitable,
suitable, because a lot of other banks require different things, or
there's no fees required, which makes it very attractive for students and everything.
Yeah,
exactly.
Also something I wanted to touch up on, I don't know if that was kind of missed during the administrative part, would be, you know, tuition fees in general. Obviously a student usually, you know, enters the payment details on the card that they, you know, whatever, that they had in the first place where they transferred it from that account. However, over time, you know, they may change their opinion, they want to do it from the ING account. You know, in that case, they can always contact us and we can kind of see how that is done. Important for this is also, or very attractive for next year first year students, is that there is probably going to be a new law in the Netherlands where the tuition fee is going to be halved. That is just, I don't know, to make it easier in the first year for students to kind of integrate, you know, deal with money and everything. So they kind of, most likely it's going to be half of the tuition fee.
Nice.
And if it's not the case, then they will receive an email about it, but most likely yes.
Yeah.
Great system.
Maybe talking about that usually goes over StudiLink, right?
StudiLink, yeah.
Yes, and with StudiLink, I mean, you'll figure this out over time, but you will need to re-enroll and always pay at the beginning of each study year. Yeah. Exactly, yeah. But you'll get an email about that, so everything is clarified. It's just good to know that you have to remember to always re-enroll and repay or pay for the next year.
Yeah, and there's plenty of different options too that you can also see on StudiLink. Most of you, or actually all of you, should have actually received an email, you know, explaining the difference between tuition fees. You know, you have plenty of options. You can give the university a digital authorization, which would happen indeed via StudiLink, where you can either give them the authorization to transfer everything at once, happens end of August, beginning of September every year. So that would, you know, then a lot of times that's what students' parents do, or if they have enough savings. Whereas if, you know, students pay it themselves, or they just don't want to have that big amount, you know, once a year, they can also decide to spread it throughout the year. So you would take your total tuition fee, divide it by 8, and then you can pay in installments. That's what it's called. Pay throughout the year, smaller amounts. To do that, though, there is a fee of 25 euros, but I mean, that's a small amount in comparison to the total tuition fee. Yeah. And for a lot of internationals, you can also just manually transfer the money without the digital authorization. Makes it easier sometimes.
Yeah.
We have a question here from Alexandra. If I already have an ING card, do I still have to open a bank account?
Well, if he already has an ING card, then he's already registered with the bank, he would, I don't know where his bank is, or if it's maybe in a different European country, but then he would obviously have to change the address of the bank once he moves to Maastricht, if applicable.
It probably also depends if it's a bank account which that person pays or does not pay for. Because if you're paying for it, then it definitely makes sense that you somehow transfer it, maybe possibly ask SSC to do that, so then you can transfer it into a student account so you don't need to pay.
Definitely that, because I don't know if the other person's paying fees, but also ING has student insurances. I think I don't want to like say a specific amount, but I believe they're around €3 a month or 4, and that like protects you from like 3 different things. I think one of them, for example, is theft or something. You know, it's like very cheap insurances that would usually cost you a lot more if you weren't like going to pay for it as a student.
Yeah.
But yeah, ING usually informs students about that, and it's a great deal actually.
Yeah.
We have another question or statement saying that someone was refused to open refused a bank account by ING because they had no address, but they had a BSN number. The thing what I noticed about ING is that one of the most attractive reasons for students, I think, is the reason that they don't need a BSN for you to open the bank account, which I think with other banks, if you wanted to open a bank account, you did need the BSN.
Yeah. Generally, I mean, the bank needs a place to contact you. Like, you know, if there are bills or anything with like insurance papers whatsoever, they need an address to send it to.
Yes. Yeah.
I understand that is like maybe very hard, but if you are located in Maastricht, you would have to have a residence address to actually open that account. Hotels unfortunately don't count. I know there are students that, you know, are only here for a limited amount of time, or like only, you know, don't have accommodation in the first period. But yeah, unfortunately, they actually need that permanent address.
And I mean, isn't it in order to get a BSN number, you do need a residential address?
In theory, yes. But you know, some students, for example, received one when they were born, and then moved out of the Netherlands. And that's, for example, in my case, I already had a BSN number. I didn't have an address, so that was kind of complicated. Yeah, but you know, it kind of depends on the case. But generally, it's possible to have a BSN number without having an address. It's only the first registration in the Netherlands where you get that number.
Yes. Okay. So do you have any tips for this person, what they should do?
That's very I mean, if you are going to study in Maastricht anyways, it's probably like top priority anyways to find housing.
Yes.
And once you found that housing, then the bank, you know, can help a lot more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another question we have here from Alice. For the IB diploma, do we have to bring the physical diploma, or can we have the scores sent directly to UM?
Well, scores, and I don't know if the student is referring to grades here. Grades can always be uploaded online, usually. Unless it's a translated grades transcript, then we would need a certified hard copy of it again. But IB diplomas usually are in English, therefore she can upload her grades online, whereas the diploma, I don't know if she's referring to that, the diploma would have to be sent to us as a hard copy, or you know, the original to us in person where we can take a scan of. But the diploma cannot be uploaded online.
Hope that answers your question. And one final question is, does Maastricht have any scholarships for internationals to take financial pressure off?
There's plenty of scholarships. I believe most of them actually started around February. There is a lot of, you know, specific nation-wide scholarships, you know, for specific countries where they have contracts with. But there's also plenty of other scholarships, like the high potential scholarships. I personally am not sure if the deadlines are over for that, but that is something a student would have to look at on the website. We have a whole list of scholarships. So, you know, to see if any scholarship is applicable for you, it's really dependent on the case. You can't say one scholarship is applicable for everyone. Yeah, and we generally like try to give internationals, you know, more scholarships, like internationals in terms of out of EU students, because they already have a lot of times a higher tuition fee in comparison to the Europeans.
And where can you find this information? On
probably if you Google just the scholarships website, Scholarships Maastricht University, it should be the first thing to pop up.
All right, thank you. I think that covers opening a bank account in Maastricht. Now we can move on to the registration of the City Hall. We already touched on this with the BSN number, which is your Burger Services number. I think Rachel can explain a bit more about what that is and the benefits of having one, etc.
Yeah. So basically, for the people that have never registered in the Netherlands, you know, this BSN number would be something you would receive, as I mentioned earlier. This could be important for, you know, jobs, for example, if you are looking for to get a job in the Netherlands, on top of the health insurance, which my other, you know, the International Student Service Desk colleague talked about. That would be like one of the most important reasons, I guess. But also, you know, to, for example, open bank accounts without like that is not ING, or it just general. It makes like life a lot easier for paperwork and everything. But so yeah, either way, a student will receive a BSN number if they live in the Netherlands, which most of the students here are probably going to live in the Netherlands, whereas some exceptions in Belgium, that is possible, some maybe in Germany, Aachen or something. But if you live in the Netherlands, you will register at the municipality, which is required so that the municipality knows where you are located in the Netherlands. So yeah, then you would automatically receive that number. You don't have to put any extra work in it. Once you're registered, they will send you that BSN number.
Just to clarify, a BSN number is basically like an ID number. Every person has a different BSN number.
Yeah, for some people, social security number, that kind of idea.
Exactly.
And can you walk prospective students through the process of getting this number?
Well, there's two different kind of categories for people, EU and EEA people, and non-EU EEA people. So, for the ones that are EU residents or EEA residents or have that nationality, they can come to one of our BRP sessions. It's called it's basically the session where they can give you that BSN number and where you can register for the municipality. So in order to do that, you need your legal residence permit. For non-EU, well, that's not really applicable in this case, considering,